When the committee members asked me to do this, my first reaction was like, why would they want me? Like, why me? Um, and and so that's what I hope that I can kind of like weave through what I'm going to share over the next little bit here is this. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but as I was kind of thinking through what I might want to talk about, that experience of in my own head questioning like, why me? Why would they want me to do this? Like, I've worked really hard on my self-image, my relationship with myself, like the shame that I grew up with that I'll talk a little bit about. And I really have come away. However, it's not perfect and it's not complete. And there's still part of me that feels like, but if only they knew, or they're just being nice, or I'll disappoint them or something. Like this is, like this is about any of that, which it's not. So I just wanted to put that out there because it does relate a lot to like my experience as a human, not just as an addict in recovery, that I carry with me in the back of my mind, like that thing that questions, if I belong, if I'm wanted, and the journey continues for me with that. So I'm really grateful that the committee asked me to do this because it really like busts through the lies I have in my head that for some reason I'm not. I shouldn't be here. And I know that's not true. And I have evidence of that I'll talk about. But anyway, it just means a lot. So thank you. And because I was new to the area about 4 years ago. I came from the Seattle area, which is geographically not far, but it feels like a different planet when it comes to like NA culture. All the basics of the same are different. The way the meetings are run are different. The relationships, like I wasn't a part of, and it felt really awkward. So I cannot believe that I'm doing this, and I'm grateful. So this is outside my comfort zone for another reason. I am really big into H&I and PI, all PR service, where we carry the message to the addict who still suffers, either directly in a treatment or facility or jail or something, or indirectly via professionals, like speaking to, like doing PI presentations for people who serve addicts. That is like my space. I didn't know that necessarily when I got here. I tried a lot of different kinds of service to figure that out. But what I know today is that hearing the message, like someone else said it this way, like interfacing with the public. It's service that interfaces with the public. And it's very different than the activities, committees, and the C&E events and stuff, which I respect so much because that drives me. That's my, like, no thank you type of service. Organizing all of this, like, is scares me. But when it comes to, like, public speaking in front of about Narcotics Anonymous or about what it's like to be an addict and then get into recovery is, I love it, and it's my comfort zone. But this is different because we're all equals here. Like, that you aren't an inpatient facility, you're not a bunch of students, you're not a bunch of teachers like who don't have any idea what this is like. So it's uncomfortable to me, and I love that. I am going to read a paragraph from, so I have my green and gold up here, I marked a few spots, and this is about service. So when being of service in Narcotics Anonymous, many of us have chosen to give back to the program in the same way we were helped when new. Some of us whose first contact with NA was through the area phone line have found it rewarding to serve on the phone line. Others have been drawn to hospitals and institution service work because we first heard the message of NA in a jail or hospital. Whatever form of service we choose to be involved in, we do so with our primary purpose of carrying the message in mind. And I think that's why myself and others I do PI and H&I work with, like why it feels so fulfilling is I first heard the message of Narcotics Anonymous in a treatment facility. I had no idea that people got clean and lived a life in recovery. I thought you were just an addict or a normal person, like a using addict or a normal person. And so I just absolutely adore doing PR service. I feel like I got a little bit ahead of myself. So I was adopted at birth. Let's go like from now all the way back to the beginning. I was adopted at birth, and I did not know until in my recovery doing step work that had any sort of psychological effect on me. I very much was raised with my adoptive family telling me, like, we wanted you, we prayed for you, we tried for you, we know kids, and like you were the answer to our prayers, which is lovely sounding, but it definitely like kind of put some stuff in my head. They thought I could do no wrong. I got away with a lot of things. And I had this, even as a kid, I had this like perspective of myself that I was better than people, and but also at the same time felt like I was worthless. And so looking back, I have done step work that led to more professional help around my feelings about being adopted. And while I'm very grateful because I ended up here, with the things I have today, it's definitely, the moment I was born as a brand new person in the world, I wasn't wanted, is what it came down to. And if the people who brought me into the world didn't want me, then what the hell does that mean about me, And I had that, it was so in the back of my mind in like a shadow in a box somewhere that I couldn't see, but it was affecting everything. I met my biological family when I was in my 20s and I was loaded, and they're just like me. So it was for the best that I didn't stay with them because they're all in and out of jails, in and out of the streets, right, using, they're me. But that didn't change the fact that that little kid in me always felt displaced. And there must be something inherently wrong with me and my existence if they didn't want me. And so I didn't know that was there for a while, right? And so as a kid, as I grew up, I actually was a pretty, this doesn't shock people, I was a pretty spunky, outgoing, smart, talkative person, just like my oldest. If you've seen her running around, she's in the kids' room right now, but she's very social, and is very quick to introduce herself to people, and I think she's pretty likable and sweet, and my mom says all the time that she reminds her of me. And so I did have my story is as a kid, despite being adopted, for the most part as a child, I felt pretty secure in who I was and was very supported. We moved up here from Southern California when I was 9, and I remember going into the public school system and showing up as myself, completely oblivious to the fact that social dynamics were already in place on the playground. And I remember it was the first time in my life that I can remember, because I don't remember the day I was born, having an experience that was shameful. And I was out there and I wanted to play with the other kids, and I went and introduced myself to them and tried to hang out with the girls who were the same girls that all throughout high school also were not kind. And they didn't accept me. And they were very open about that, as 9-year-olds are. And they said, we don't want you to play with us. We don't like you. We don't want you here. They just were mean. And kids can be that way. It is what it is. But I was devastated. And I just remember that whole school year, really, talking to my mom, what do I do to make them like me? What do I need to change about me so that they will let me play with them? And why don't they like me? What's wrong with me? And feeling powerless, helpless, unlovable, all the things that are sprinkled throughout my story as I keep going, And it was evidence. It was truly evidence in my mind that there was something wrong with me. So then middle school happened, which is very few people's favorite time in their life, from what I've heard. And it just got worse, I had braces and glasses. I played the clarinet. It was a lost. It was not, yeah, thank you, Anna. Anna loves that girl. I love that girl too now, but it wasn't, people didn't like that. Kids are mean. And I just couldn't hang. And, but I wanted to so bad. I see some people don't really fit in with the mainstream and they're okay with that. That was not my story. I wanted to, and I couldn't figure out how. And so my whole young adult life or my older childhood life, I was on this mission of how do I change me so that they will like me? And that's just all I thought about all the time. And I wasn't very good at it. And so I felt really lonely, and something was wrong with me, and I didn't know what to do with that, and I couldn't put words to it. And then I used drugs for the first time. And I was in my early teens and at a family function, and someone offered me a socially acceptable substance because it was no big deal. And, I had one taste of that and it was over, or it had started, however you want to look at it. And I didn't know I had all these questions, but they were answered in that moment. It was my body felt calm, my mind got calm, my feelings got calm. I could exist in my own skin and around other people and not feel like disgusting or unlovable. Everything was okay, you know? And so of course I blacked out because that's, you know, what we do. And my family thought it was funny, you know? They were like, oh, everyone does that once and learns their lesson, ha 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 ha, teenagers. And that is totally not what happened, you know? Like it was then for the next, 10 or 12 years, it was a series of trying to achieve that middle ground of using enough to feel okay, but not so much that it was like I wasn't okay, you know, it was like sick. And I will gloss over a lot of this because I think we all know, right? Like it was fun for a while, and then I started getting in trouble when like my friends didn't get in trouble, and like lots of red flags. I was a really good student when I was younger, and I started just like effing that off. Like I didn't care. You know, I started violating the values I had even as a kid that I couldn't name. Again, like didn't know that's what it was, but now I do, that I was not being true to myself. But I feel like I found a shortcut to that problem of like wanting to fit in with people. When I was loaded, it didn't bother me as much, or it was easier to achieve that, where I was around other people that were like me, and so it did seem to fix that thing that I had. So I lived that way for a long time, right? Like I think it works until it doesn't work, and it actually didn't work for a long time until I stopped, but I kept trying anyway. Someone used the term when I was in high school, self-medicating, and I really identify with that. You know, it's like I was trying to use away those feelings, and unfortunately, it's not a black and white thing where I could do that, and then I wasn't functioning very well. Like it had equal and opposite reaction of consequences for me. You know, I crashed my car a few times, I got arrested a few times. My relationships were a mess. And my family, you know, like they adopted me out of a family of addicts, and they're not addicts. So at home, it was more of what's wrong with you, we didn't raise you this way. I think the messaging was like they were scared. You know, I know now about both my biological parents and my adoptive parents, really all people, that everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. And what I now see as an adult and a mom myself is just fear. You know, like my adoptive mom was terrified at what I was doing, and she didn't know how to handle it, and the way she handled it didn't help. But it's what she had, you know. My biological mom, they had me when they were teenagers, and I'm sure they were terrified. You know, I know what it's like. Recovery has given me the ability to empathize. I know what it's like to be a pregnant teen mom and loaded and terrified, you know. And so I'm grateful for a lot of things in recovery, but it's given me this ability to like position myself in the shoes of others and find forgiveness for myself and others, you know. I was angry and hurt for a long time about what my biological family did, you know, like I was just trash or something to just be like handed off, even though what they did, they gave me to a great family, but I just couldn't reconcile that. And I used for a long time because I felt like that. But now, you know, I just see it differently. And so I decided, when I was a teenager, like I alluded to, right, I had 2 unplanned pregnancies, and my fear around that led me instead to not follow through with those, you know? And so for a long time, I told myself, I don't want to be a parent. I can't be a mom. I don't know if I don't know if it was only about that, right? To like live with the fact that I decided not to become a mom when I was a teenager. But for whatever reason, like that was what I had in my head. It's not for me. I was scared of kids. I still sometimes am. But like, I just couldn't, that maternal side of me, right? Which if you know me now is like, it's so opposite. I couldn't connect to like the woman and the mom in me. I was like a dude's girl, you know, because that felt safer. I had more control in those relationships. So things got worse before they got better, right? I like limped my way through a degree somehow because I was really manipulative and had like just high enough GPA to graduate. It wasn't, I believe, my best work, but it happened. And so I didn't know what to do with my life, and everyone else finished college and kind of like, you know, moved on. So I moved to California and married a Marine because that obviously was going to be the solution to myself. Married some guy, moved to a new state, try different substances. Like I tried all the things on the list to change, except for actually getting clean. And so it didn't work, long story short, I came back up here because he was also an addict and it was really abusive and gross. So I came back up here and caused more trouble, and my body started to fail, and I started ending up instead of in jail, I started ending up in the hospital, right? I was 24 years old, and my family intervened because they were scared, and I wasn't willing, and so when I do H&I panels, I talk a lot about what it was like to be willing to go to treatment and be willing to try this, because despite how much I didn't like myself, I still really did believe that if I did it my way, it would work out. If I just wanted to quit using, I would. I just didn't want to yet. And I really believed that. Or I just needed to quit using these substances in these ways with these people at these times and control my using, and then it would be fine, And I hear people talk about this all the time. But I believed it, right? And so my self-deception, I remember realizing that how wrong I was, and I still hang on to that stuff because my brain still does it, right? I still do things today that I think make sense to me, and then other people are like, I don't know about that. I'm gonna read a paragraph because I need that. And then, so I'm in a step working group, and I also work steps with my sponsor, so I'm on a 4-step and a 7-step. A few weeks ago, it was 4 and 6, and that was a joy for everyone in my life to be on both of them. Okay, but this is about perseverance. On the spiritual foundation, we lay the principles of commitment and perseverance as we work the 6th step. We need the willingness to make a commitment to pursue our recovery despite the continued presence of character defects in our lives. We mustn't give up, even when we think no change has taken place. We're often blind to our own internal changes, but we can rest assured that what's happening inside us is evident on the outside to others. Our job is to keep on walking, even though it may feel as though each step requires more strength than we can muster. No matter how difficult our progress, we must persevere. We can make use of our sheer grit and tenacity it took to maintain our active addiction by being steadfast and strong in our efforts to sustain our recovery. Yeah, dude. So, like I said, right, getting here was what it was. Once I got, I tried the outpatient thing. I tried all the half measures. It didn't work for me. Once I was all in-ish, which means I was willing to go to treatment and actually get for real clean, not pretend clean or half clean. I went to a treatment facility, and I heard the message of recovery for the first time from other addicts, right, and from professionals, and started to learn a little bit more about what might be going on for me, and this idea of self-reflection, and then taking that and making choices with that information. That was not something that I had considered, because everything was it's their fault, it's this, if it happened to you the way it happened to me, you'd do the same thing, all the excuses, and the concept of being responsible for myself was new. So I did treatment. I got out of treatment, and I did the Oxford House, get a sponsor you never call, get a home group you don't go to, a service position you don't show up for, a phone list you don't use, right? The pretend recovery. And I didn't stay clean, it's weird how people told me that. I didn't believe them. And I didn't stay clean. So with almost 6 months clean, I died. I relapsed and I died, and I woke up in the hospital. And thank goodness for the Good Samaritan law, because I wouldn't be here if the person I was using with hadn't have done something about it. And I'd like to say that was the wake-up call, but I just really need to be sure sometimes. So I kept using, and it was that, but it was also shame, right? So mortified. And this is the power of NA. I went to a meeting and I talked about what happened, and people loved me and they supported me, and nobody, at least to my face, said anything judgmental or mean, but I couldn't live with myself. I hadn't done enough work yet to be able to reconcile the choice that I had made to use and how right everyone else was and how wrong I was. I was so embarrassed, and it was, again, I took it as evidence that I was bad, wrong, something's wrong with me, I can't even do this right. And so I used again for, another month or two, and shit got bad. Things that hadn't happened before happened. I saw some things that I I don't want this to be a doom and gloom share, but it was scary. It wasn't like scary, like, oh, my feelings, or, oh, I have to speak in front of, it was scary, like, I'm watching things happen to children, I'm watching things happen to women, I'm participating in things that make me feel disgusting. And that relapse was humbling. So I got the chance to try again, I detoxed at home, ew, never want to do that again. I went back to treatment, I've been clean since. That was over 9.5 years ago. Yeah. Thank you. And what was different this time was not the treatment facilities program or Narcotics Anonymous or any of the advice I got or the steps, right? What was different was that I actually was scared and like wanted it to be different and put myself into this. And it's been so hard. It's been so hard because I'm so stubborn sometimes. I have been. And but the idea of maybe these people do know better. Maybe there's something here that can help me. Maybe if I just shut up for a minute or and listen, there's something someone else could say that would help me. And the journey I've been on for the last several years, right? Since, I got clean when I was 25, I'm 35 now. So I really feel like I've grown up into an adult here because I was not really what I would call adult, living an adult life at that time when I got clean. I had nothing, I had nowhere to live. I had no job. I was just existing. I've grown up in NA, and 100% of what I have in my life, no exaggeration, is a result of Narcotics Anonymous. Sometimes literally, I found my husband here, right? Literally NA gives me things like that, but also indirectly, the work I've done here, the people I've met here, who I've gotten to know as Ashley here has brought me this life. So I tried again. Right, and that's another valuable lesson I learned here is if I make a mistake, I get to try again. And I have a lot of perfectionism issues from how I was raised too. And it sometimes doesn't occur to me right away that if I don't do it right the first time, that's not the end of the story. So, so I went back into the Oxford House, but this time I got a home group that I showed up for, and I got to know women. And I got to know men too, and I got pregnant when I had 3 months in an Oxford house, and so I brought myself with me into recovery, right? And so the thing, it is funny, but I was also really scary, right? Being in my first year of recovery and pregnant, there's a lot going on there, emotionally, psychologically, right? And if it wasn't for the other women who were saw me pregnant with 6 months clean in a meeting, and they were ooh, and came and helped, right? Thank God for the women in NA who realized that I probably needed a lot of support because I didn't know how to ask yet. I really didn't know what I needed. I was just I'm here, I don't know, I don't want to die. And so the humility and the teachability that I got from my first year of recovery saves me every day still, And so my daughter that came in and saw me say I didn't want to be a mom when I was a teenager and then walked back out a few minutes ago, she was standing out there. She was born the day before I had a year clean. So I became a mom in my first year of recovery, just barely by a few hours. And I didn't want to be a mom, remember? I was so scared. And what I know today is that sometimes the things I'm really afraid of because I don't believe in myself are exactly the things I need to move through those feelings and become a better me. I didn't know because it was so shut down from my using and from all of my, core beliefs that were effed up about who I am. I didn't know that I'm actually a really nurturing, loving person. I didn't know that I crave connections. I didn't know that I could be emotionally vulnerable, and I also didn't know that I could put my mind to something and with support achieve a goal that wasn't tomorrow, that I could actually persevere to a goal that was a few years away. Still really hard for me to be patient, but I didn't know any of that. And when I got clean and I started meeting other women who were doing that and believed that maybe then I could do that, it kind of has been unstoppable ever since. So I had that baby, and I almost married her dad because I am a product of Disney, and someday my prince will come and happily ever after. And so I was it's God's will. I'm having a baby. I'm marrying this guy. Gifts of recovery. And then I worked a 4-step. you know, and this is the story that I asked my husband last night, which story should I tell? And he said the fourth step story. So I worked at fourth step, and it was traumatic, not because just the fourth step, but because I did the fifth step, and I said this stuff out loud, and my sponsor and I looked at each other, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm about to make the biggest mistake I could possibly make. And this is not me talking trash about my ex, but like, I got to see for the first time how my behavior and my choices contributed to my misery. And then I had a choice. And like, there's literally nothing more powerful to me about NA than the choice that I have every day. I didn't have that until, honestly, probably then. Even though I got clean, like the possibility of choices were presented because I wasn't using drugs, but I don't know if I knew how to make a choice until that fourth step. So we broke up, and it was really, really, really hard because I was still mad. I was so mad to take that ring off. I was so mad to hang that dress up because I really thought if I could just have what I think I needed to be okay, right? The happy family, blah, 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 then I would be okay. And letting go of that was the most terrifying thing. So I moved in with my mom, and I went back to school, and I felt embarrassed in recovery again. I was like, I'm that person, whatever, you know, I'm that. I guess I had judgment, surprise, like I'm that lady who's like the single mom going to school, living off of people's charity. And I didn't want to be that lady. Like I didn't want to. And so I did it anyway. Like I just had to. And now I see other moms, it's so funny. I see other people go back to school or have kids or like, you know, or leave partners that it's not healthy for them. And I'm like, you go, like, good for you. But I didn't feel that way about me. It's so weird. Like I felt like I'd failed, you know? So I kept going anyway, because that's what I learned to do here. What you guys taught me is like, just don't quit before the miracle. Don't use even if you want to. Like all these things I learned here are not only about the drugs. Once I understood that, it helped a lot. And so I did a teacher certification program, and I got my own apartment with my almost 3-year-old that's how old she was then. And I finally felt like I qualified as an adult, or a functioning member of society, you know. So I had my feet under me. How much time do I have? Or like 10 minutes? Is that cool? 5-10 minutes? Cool. So I finally got my feet under me, you know, and that was like the first 2 or 3 years of my recovery. I got up to like an 8th or 9th step. I was more aware of how the things I was doing was really what the issue was in my relationships, and things were getting better, you know, they just were. So then I worked my first 6th step, and this is literally my favorite paragraph out of this whole book on step 6. Here we go. Take a defect such as self-righteousness, for example, and imagine it in its normal, uninflated state. Confident belief in one's own values. Strong, confident, well-rounded people have formed values and principles to live by and believe deeply in their rightness. Such people live what they believe and share those beliefs with others in a non-critical way when asked. Underlined. Confidence in our beliefs is essential. Without it, we'd be wishy-washy, unsure of our decisions, and probably somewhat immature in our dealings with the world. Confident belief becomes ugly self-righteousness when we insist that others live by our values. Attempting to reinforce our insistence by manipulating or exploiting others makes this defect even uglier. So, damn. Like, that was my life. Like, I was in that because I had this newfound self-respect and confidence because I had, like, emerged from not only getting clean, but then also, like, becoming autonomous. For the first time in my life. And it was almost intoxicating. Like, I don't need a man, like I can do this on my own, you know, but I also was very young in my ability to like manage my money or my time. And I was on the right track, but I hadn't quite balanced into like having those qualities that are positive and then, but not letting them turn into, like it said in there, the ugliness, right? And so I was not super kind to people. I wasn't doing a lot of service. That was a big thing. And deep down, I was still scared someone was going to find out, right? They were going to find out that I don't belong, I'm not good enough, especially at work. I was a brand new teacher, and I was like, dude, they're going to know that I suck at this. Like, someone's going to find out. And I don't suck at it. I'm actually really good at it. But, like, I had this in my head, and the sixth step was really hard for me because it made me more aware of the things I was doing that didn't line up with my values and that made my relationships more painful. And it was all me. It was like, ew, I'm doing all this. It was really hard. Thank God for the seventh step, right? Thank God, literally, for the seventh step, because I didn't have to stay there. And it got better. It didn't all get better all at once right away, but it got better. I got better gradually. So, I was single thing. I was focusing on my career, and I really, deep down, I didn't tell a lot of people this, but I really believed that no one would want me still, though, right? Like, who would want a woman with a toddler? Like, I mean, I didn't think that guy was out there. I didn't know how to manifest that. So I just focused on me, and that's what I needed. For the first time ever, I was just focused on me. And then my husband showed up, like, in front of me at a convention. He fell from the sky and was just like, introduced himself, and we've been together ever since. It was like the next day it was on, and it was the weirdest thing ever because it was effortless. And I thought that I always had to force things, and I always had to, like, manipulate people. And I don't know that there's ever been, it's too bad he had to leave with all of our damn kids. But I don't know there's ever been anything in my life that has ever been so obvious to me that it was right, and Narcotics Anonymous gave that to me. I was at an NA convention. And so what's great about my husband and my relationship is he's my opposite. I am very, like, blah, 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 and he is very, like, sit back, chill, take it all in, process, consider, and I'm just like, react now. And so it's so good for me. Like, we're good for each other, right? I think I'll speak for him. Because, like, somewhere in the middle is, like, a whole person that's balanced, right? Who can be assertive and take action with a plan, right? Not impulsively. And we really bring out the best in each other. And I didn't know that could be a thing. I had no idea that was an option. I was like, I either pick horribly abusive relationships or I'm alone. Those are the options, right? And it's kind of like when I got clean. It's either you're a using addict or you're normal. I didn't know there was this option of, like, healthy stuff over here, but there is. So I'm glad that I found that. It changed my life. And I wish I could talk for 7 more hours about what's happened since then, but I can't. Sorry, Danielle. We can talk later. Okay. It hasn't all been perfect, right? Like, I bring myself with me. The readings that I did, it's not linear and it's not all at once, which is hard for my brain sometimes. Really, really hard. When we decided that we wanted to, Ashley, who doesn't want kids, we decided that we wanted to have 4 kids. I decided that we wanted to have 4 kids, okay? He was okay with 1 more kid. I wanted more kids. And it needed to be now, it really needed to be, like, yesterday. And he went along with it because he's very supportive. And we went through a lot. If you were around me in 2018, 2019, you saw me really going through the struggle, right, of being clean and in constant pain. We had, like, 3 miscarriages that year, and every single time I thought it was going to take me, like, totally down, and it didn't, because I had you guys. From the joy of, like, a positive pregnancy test to, like, the utter despair and anguish of finding out that that's not a viable pregnancy, and doing that 3 times, was absolutely horrific. And I did lose faith in my body, in my God, in, like, why did I clean if it's going to be like this? This isn't fair. I had a lot of that, like, dangerous shit going on in my head, and I talked about it, and women validated it, and, like, I had no idea that it was so common. And my husband was supportive, but he didn't quite get it because it's not his body, right? And it was really, really hard to stay clean. And then COVID happened, so it was like, there's so much going on. What I've learned here is the same things I've already said. Don't quit for the miracle. The things that worked for me in the beginning work for me now. When I feel like I am craving connection and relief, I pick up the phone, I go to a meeting, I help other people, I talk about it, I let myself feel my feelings and don't try to change them. Like, I don't know who created that, but thank you. and it never stays the same, right? And so we decided to keep, and, he did great. And thank you, Clay. That last one was horrible because I had to have surgery that last time. And I was sure, I was like, this isn't, to go from not wanting to be a mom to wanting to be one so bad that it was like physically painful, like emotionally, and it just couldn't work. And I was like so upside down, you guys. I was so upside down. Thank God to my home group members. They heard that shit every week. Anyway, we got pregnant again, and it was just sheer terror the entire time, and we went to that first appointment, and I was having a panic attack because I knew it was going to be bad again. Bad news, right? Every time. And there was 2 heartbeats on the screen, and I was like, what the fuck? My husband didn't know what he was like, is it okay? What's happening? And I was like, we looked at him and we were like, there's 2. And 2 what? Like, what do you mean? It took him some time to process, right? Whereas I'm immediately like planning the nursery. That's how we are. And you guys, it was so scary. It was so scary every day. I was sure something bad was going to happen. But it didn't, and so I wanted to be a mom again so badly that I ended up with 2 babies. The power of manifestation. And I wouldn't change a single thing, not even the tragedies, because it is the journey. And I know that now. I've known that, all along the way, but I share that just to say, and I'm finishing now, I promise. I share that to say, for myself, right, and for all of us, sometimes I forget that just because I get clean doesn't mean the world is going to be kind to me, or that it positions it like the world's out to get me. No, doesn't mean that life will just be easy, right? It doesn't mean that I deserve or I'm entitled to things being easier. Things have gotten easier because I'm not using drugs, obviously, and making better choices. But life is still going to happen, and when that happens, it's not your guys' fault. It's not even often my fault. It's not God's fault. It's just happening. It's just life. And so I get to choose, right? Do I want to get high over that? Do I want to hate everybody about that? Hate myself about that? Or do I just want support about that? And I did all of those, except for getting high. I did all of those things when I was going through it. And I've been doing a lot of work, a lot of step work, to heal from the damage that I did to my relationship with myself when I was going through that. But there's always another side, right? If I hadn't have gone through the difficulties, I don't believe I would be as humbled and grateful and appreciative of being on the other side of that, I don't like when people say everything happens for a reason. It's kind of like, but the spirit of that I believe in, right? There's something that positive that can be gained through adverse experiences, right? Otherwise, why would we be here doing eating briskets and gravy after using drugs? I look at my kids and people are like, oh, twins, better you than me, double trouble, all the things, and I'm like, yes, better me than you. I could not be more grateful that I get to have 2 of them when I thought I wasn't going to have any. Hi, Juliet. 3 of them. Thank God for Juliet. She's a good big sister. So anyway, if you're in it, we're here for you. It won't always be it. Something will change. And we're doing speaker panels in high schools, you guys. You should definitely talk to Kalei and Devon and I about what that looks like and how to get involved and oriented so that you can come and teach other people about NA and what we do here and how it works. And bring newcomers in. If you're interested in free pamphlets, they're over there on the rack on the table. And I'm just really grateful that you guys were here to hear me. It was really healing. I feel a part of the Everett Fellowship more than I did when I walked in. And that's what this is about for me. So thank you for helping me feel safe. And staying. That's all I have.